Well, good morning, Miramar, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Tamara G. As always, check us out on all of our social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at City of Miramar. And with us, we have New York Times best-selling author, Dr. Angela Jackson. She is a faculty member at Harvard University, CEO of Future Forward Strategies, and she is the author of the best-selling book, the New York Times best-selling book. Let me put that in there, the win-win workplace, how thriving employees drive bottom line success. And I just can't wait to talk to you about this, Dr. Jackson, because apparently a lot of people are doing the revenge quitting in 2025. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and why is it so popular all of a sudden?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation. So, we talk about revenge quitting. We've known this for quite a while that a lot of U.S. workers have been working under conditions and uncertainty, especially in this moment now when we watch the headlines of you see mass reductions in force and layoffs. And so, you have a lot of people who are staying in jobs where they might not be happy, but they're staying in there for just today. And when they get their next opportunities, as soon as they get out, they're not giving 2 weeks notice. They are done and they have been done. And that's just a real problem for employers that they need to address in this moment.
And a certain age group, we're taught, you're supposed to give the 2 weeks notice. You're supposed to do your best job, period. Every day when you come to work, you give your all in all. And yet you're saying that there are so many people that are doing revenge quitting that it almost seems like nobody's working. If you if you need somebody to call somebody to do something, you can't ever find anybody.
That's exactly right. And I write about this in the book, The Win-Win Workplace. Basically, when I grew up, and I think we're maybe in the same generation, we had a social contract. You went into work, you put your head down, in exchange, you got a paycheck. When we look at the data, and we have this research in the book, workers today are looking for more than just a pay cut. And in fact, what they are saying is that if they can have more flexibility in how and when they work, that 42% of people say that they would take a pay cut. And so what that means now for employers, that calculation of saying, I give you a salary, I expect XYZ in return, they have to reevaluate that value proposition and really think about what's most important to employees in this moment.
Okay, and so what is important? Because if you're saying that 42% would take a pay cut to get what they want, what is it that employees want?
So let's start with flexibility. A lot of the conversations when I'm with CEOs, they will say, well, people want to work remote because they just want to be at home. Some of the live realities management CEOs may not appreciate. So, for example, when you look at hourly wage workers, they're spending upwards of 26% of their after tax income on transportation. I'm based in Boston. You can go 10 miles and your commute can take you 2 hours. So there's some real barriers to getting to work that people are saying they want flexibility. They want reimagined benefits. We're in the sandwich generation, so we're caring for our elders, but also our kids, and we need help with that. Any one of your listeners who are listening, we know how much childcare and caregiving cost in general. And so when we talk about just the paycheck, that's like table stakes. What employees are asking now when we went out and asked them is that one, they want to know that their lived realities are taken account of. They want more flexibility with their time. They want more benefits that actually speak to their lived experience today. And there's a lot of folks who are thinking about, how am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to get that next pair of shoes for Junior, especially in this climate of tariffs that we're talking about? A lot of people are nervous, and a paycheck just doesn't cut it.
Right. And speaking of that, when people decide that they're revenge quitting or they're just going to do just barely enough to get that check every 2 weeks, it is also not good for customers. It's already not good for the workplace and the environment, but also if you're a company, it can't be good for your clients or your customers, right?
Of course, it's not good for them, and there's a reason. I always give this story. I don't know if you have Trader Joe's in Florida, but
We
it's one of
do.
these grocery chains where you go in, they're suggesting products to you, they're happy, they're actually upselling. And so what I say to CEOs that we're working with and leadership teams are, you're missing your greatest ambassador. But what I also say is this can be turned around. And what I write about in the book are these 9 strategies that help turn that culture around, that also show a lift on the bottom line, on the financial impact. So these are pillars and strategies you can use and you can actually measure. They show measurable impact in the amount of sales you have, the amount of services that you're doing. And that also lowers retention. Those are real dollars and cents that are saved.
Okay. And it's called, of course, the win-win workplace, how thriving employees drive bottom line success. Does it also seem, because I know you're out here with the CEOs, I know you're talking with them, it seems like every company, and I'm including my own, wants employees to do 10 jobs, but only wants to pay me for one. And I don't know anybody that is signing up for that. I mean, I'm already working, 40, 50 hours a week trying to do what you actually hired me to do. And now that Sally is gone, you want to give me Sally's workload, but you don't want to give me Sally's money. And so I think that definitely has to be one of the reasons why people are revenge quitting.
Absolutely, Tamara. And the way I think about it is this, right? Right now, there's a couple of things that are going on in the economy. Most CEOs and leadership teams, they're not hiring right now. There's a hiring freeze. They're looking for more stability. To your point, they're asking people to do more with less. But this also becomes a time where I tell my students at Harvard and other people that I advise and coach, this is the best time for you to negotiate for yourself. So, yes, you are doing 5 or 6 jobs that might not be the one you've hired for. You need to write down those what those are, and you need to understand what value you're bringing to the company. We need to speak their language, right? You need to talk about how much you're saving them in terms of headcount or how much money you're bringing into the company. Everyone should have an analysis around that. The second thing they should be thinking about is how do they add value with generative AI? So if you're doing these 5 to 7 things, what thing can you outsource to generative AI? I would encourage all your listeners to play around with that because you're expert at your job. You need to be able to manage up and tell your manager, one, how you're adding value, how you're saving money. Because at the end of the day, what that does is you're showing them your value. Those are the people that they're going to keep. If you just put your head down and do 7 or 8 jobs, you're just doing 7, 8 jobs. No one else knows it. So you have to really think about a way that you can advocate in a respectful way, but also bring in the data. And in the book, we talk about the data points that the CFOs and CEOs care most about. They want to know, how are you increasing sales? How are you saving us money? How are you being more productive? Speak their language and use it to your advantage.
If you're just tuning in, thank you so much for watching. We are speaking with New York Times best-selling author, Dr. Angela Jackson. She is a faculty member at Harvard University, CEO of Future Forward Strategies, and author of the New York Times best-selling book announced just in the past month or so, The Win-Win Workplace, How Thriving Employees Drive Bottom Line Success. And so you also talk about in the book having that conversation, you just mentioned it, with your manager. But do people really know how to do that? Do they feel comfortable doing that? Hey, I need to talk to you. Do you guys offer emergency funds for employees? Do we offer hybrid work? I think so many people are just scared to lose their jobs in this day and time that, they're just settling for anything.
Absolutely. And I recently had a woman that I was coaching come in. One thing she did with her manager when she went in after the coaching was led with curiosity. So the book is a good talking point. I read this book. I noticed that some of our peers are doing X, Y, and Z. I noticed that some of our peers are, giving more benefits for caregiving, that are opening more flexibility with time. Have we considered that? And just listen to them. This is the time for us to manage up and to help our managers help us. So you want to make sure, one, that you're assuming best intentions. Two, assume that they don't know this. Their heads might be in down too. Three, assume that you're bringing them valuable information that they can use to advocate for themselves and you. And then we need to wait and see what happens. And it's all data at the end of the day. If nothing changes and you're thinking about leaving, that gives you more evidence that maybe you should take your value somewhere else. Because I always tell people we get to decide who we want to make rich.
I love that, Dr. Jackson. Speaking of that, so many people now are, trying to move into different jobs, new jobs. Maybe they are tired of where they are. Maybe they feel like they, are stagnant and can't move up. And yet, when they go to, fill out an application online, or there's a great job that would be perfect for them, we're finding out that they call them ghost jobs. They're not even real jobs. Like they're not even, that company's not even hiring. So why is that now a trend? That's almost as bad as revenge quitting, that I want to look for a job, I want to work for your company, and you put out like a fake job application.
So one, it's terrible, and the companies that are doing that are starting to get a bad rap because people talk. I think that's one. Two, the reason why they're doing it is even though they're not hiring right now, they feel like they will, and they're trying to get a stack of applicants. One way that you can circumvent this, if any of your listeners are not on, for example, LinkedIn, or another site is called Jobcase, get on these sites, because what you can do is reach out to someone who works at the company. And one thing that I've had my students do successfully is that they'll reach out at someone at the company and just ask for an informational conversation and get to know you. Remember, that LinkedIn platform is for networking. The time to make friends is before you need them. So reach out to the company, see if you can get an intro. Also think about what you can share, because although your company is not exactly right for you, it might be right for someone else. So really think of that as an exchange and see if you can get the scoop on what's really happening from an employee that's already working there. That's the best thing you can do in these moments, especially if you feel ghosted and you haven't heard back from them.
Right. And it's just always amazing how, when you feel like it's time for you to move, maybe it's not that time yet. Maybe there's something that's still keeping you at that current position or that current job. How do you speak to your manager about what's in store for me? Well, how can I move forward where I am? I don't want to keep just answering phones here for the next 20 years.
I want to go back to what I just said. First, if you're going to your manager, always anchor on the value that you created for the company. Like that is your case for continued investment in you. So know what that is. Have your 3 to 4 talking points. If you can have some numbers behind it and data, all the more important. Remember, you're helping your manager help you. So get comfortable with managing up. Doing that with curiosity, and then asking if they have a plan, and let them know what your plan is. Do you have 2 or 3 roles that you're interested in? Please, please, if anything, they don't take anything away from this conversation. Don't wait for someone to see your value or to see what position you'd be good at. They don't know well enough to do that. You'd hope that they do, but most managers have 5, 10, 20 other people. You're going to be the best advocate for yourself. So similar to, like I said, with LinkedIn, having those informational interviews, do those within the company. So if you find 2 or 3 people that are in roles that you think might be possible for you, reach out and ask for coffee. Learn more. Make sure that they know your name, because they might be moving on and they could be the ones who are introducing you to their manager and to the department.
Right, to the new company. And I love the fact that you said come in with curiosity and ask questions, but do people also go in with demands? And should you ever do that?
So once you know your value, right? And we talk about what you've done. You've read this book and you've got some evidence from the one workplace, what other employees are doing. Hope ideally their peers. You're going in and you ask, start with curiosity, you listen to them. But if it gets to the point, you have to say, and you have to be ready to do this. Do not make a demand unless you're really ready to walk. That's the most critical piece. If you are ready to walk, you can say, and give them a heads up, and this is out of courtesy, I am considering for opportunities in this vein. Do you think that that could happen within this department? Do you think this would happen in this organization? Or do you suggest that I might look elsewhere? And so that's making the same demand to them. You put them on notice that you're looking. You're happy to do it within your current department, you're happy to do it within the organization, or you're happy to do it without. And so only make that firm demand when you've got an offer in place and that you're ready to accept them saying, okay, see you later. And that you make sure that you have kind of all your I's dotted and T's crossed.
Yeah. But I saw how you did that there. I saw the demand. You gave options, and then at the end you said, but you know what? If it's not happening here, I'm more than willing to go somewhere else, basically. And as you said, you have to be willing to walk.
You have to be willing to walk. Some people make it too soon, some people make it too late. Just make sure you have your options lined up and that when you leave, it works for you. That's the most important thing. Don't leave just out of anger. Make sure that you have a plan.
Okay, the win-win workplace, how thriving employees drive bottom line success. It is by Dr. Angela Jackson, the CEO of Future Forward Strategies. She's also on the faculty at Harvard University and is revolutionizing the workplace for culture and profitability by handing the reins over to the real drivers of success, the workers. Do you find in that C-suite, Dr. Jackson, that most CEOs do rely on their workers, or are they thinking that they are the ones that are, running everything? To me, it just would make sense to listen to the people who are in the office every day working because the CEO may not even be there.
That's completely right, Tamara.
Mhm.
It's interesting. When I go out to CEOs, I've never met a CEO who said they don't listen to their people. Never met a CEO who said, they should just do as I say. What I see is like a perception gap, right? So CEOs think that they're pouring in, they're spending billions of dollars listening to their employees. But when you ask the rank and file employees, you've got upwards of 60% saying they don't feel that their employer cares about them. What I root out in the book is a chapter on training frontline managers. That's what we see as one of the real indicators whether someone will appreciate their job and grow in their job. It's about who manages you. It doesn't matter who the CEO is. And so one thing that I've been advocating for moving forward is more training for managers. Many of them became manager because they were a good individual contributor, not because they were investing in developing talent. And so we have to make more demands on our direct managers.
All right. The win-win workplace, how thriving employees drive bottom line success. Dr. Angela Jackson, where can people find the book? As a New York Times best-selling author and this book, I am sure they can find it everywhere, but please tell them.
Yeah, so if you go to readwinwinworkplace.com, you will find the book there to have links to all of your favorite sellers. If you send us a message and you buy the book, we'd love to invite your listeners to join one of our book club sessions where we'll have people coming together, those who are job seekers who are looking for their next opportunities, those who are an internal who are thinking about how they advance, and we'll also have one for managers who are thinking about how they lead differently because this moment calls for that. And then in May, we're having a win-win workplace summit where we're going to bring together employees, job seekers, employers, just to talk about how we create these spaces where everyone can grow and thrive. And you can go to winwinworkplacesummit.org for that link.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Jackson. We certainly appreciate it. Again, you can find the book wherever you find books, or you can just go to the website. It is tell them again the website, please.
It's readwinwinworkplace.com.
All right, sounds good. Dr. Angela Jackson, thank you so much for joining us today on Good Morning Miramar, and wish you much continued success with the book and also with the conference that is coming up. And hopefully everybody will be in a win-win workplace in this next coming year.
Oh, it's my hope. Thank you so much for having me and having this conversation. I appreciate it.
And thank you for watching Good Morning Miramar. Until next time, I'm your host, Tamara G. See ya.